Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 9th episode of the SORARE RotoGrinders podcast. I am your host, per usual, Sean PSU Fans 2 Newsham. Joining me once again is Andrew Laird, also known as Lairdino on SORARE. Andy, how's it going?
No, thanks for having me back. It was fun the first time, so we'll do it again. Might as well run it back.
There we go. Yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed the episode I did with Dan the other day. I had a lot of positives from it. I heard a lot of good feedback from it. I thought there was a lot of interesting things. Like I learned a few things that I didn't know going in. Did you learn some things as well?
I think all the ones that you've done have been really helpful. I mean, even people who have already jumped into SORARE, I think they've been really valuable. So yeah, nice job on these.
Yes, no, thank you. I think they've been pretty good. I think all around they've been pretty good. So today, based on a conversation that was discussed yesterday in the general Discord chat, we wanted to just sort of touch on what the difference is between like SORARE and DFS, considering a decent amount of our audience is DFS players or people that have been involved with DFS, and like what we like from SORARE compared to that of DFS. And honestly, like at this point for me, there's not really anything I like better about DFS than SORARE. Is there anything that you like better about like soccer DFS?
No, definitely not. And I guess we should preface that I know that there are some DFS platforms in Europe that you and I can't play.
Correct.
That we're not really super familiar with. I think Fan Team is kind of the biggest one that some people have gotten involved with. SORARE is obviously a pretty international game. So they have a good UK audience of users and they're able to play kind of those local DFS games. But generally we're talking about DraftKings and FanDuel when it comes to DFS soccer. And yeah, I think there are a lot of similarities that I think people kind of misconstrue as being literally differences. But there are a lot of similarities when it comes to SORARE and DFS. And I think it was worth us kind of sitting down. We obviously have a decent history of DFS, at least on the primarily U.S. platforms that, we've had some people that we know kind of try SORARE and they kind of give up because they think it's just a little too different from DFS. But I think we'll discuss that they overlap a lot more than we think they do.
Yeah, so I will say that I've noticed about, let's say, 10 to 20 people that have gone on here from DFS and that are on the platform or were on the platform. And I know of a couple of people that have left the platform. And I know some people that have stayed on the platform and have like ramped up their investment and all of that. So we'll talk about that. And like Laird said, we're going to talk more about DraftKings and FanDuel than anything else, because those are the ones where we are efficient in and that we are familiar with. And there are European-based platforms, but we don't have access to those. Similarly to those, how some Europeans do not have access to ours. Some do, because some are allowed to play on FanDuel and DraftKings, but a lot of them cannot. So the first thing I will touch on for me that is a big positive between SORARE and that of DraftKings and FanDuel is that DraftKings and FanDuel, let's say you put $1,000 into play on a given slate and you lose. You lose $1,000. That's gone. It's never coming back. Where on SORARE, you buy these cards that you own permanently. And again, if you are new and you're a DFS person listening to this, you can use the link in our description to sign up. You get a free limited card once you purchase 5 cards at the auction house, the primary market. So if you're just getting started, it's a good way to get started. But the way it works is you buy these cards on SORARE and you own them. So like you do not have to worry about your $1,000 being lost that day. Like if you have a bad game week, you just move on to the next game week. And that's something for me, emotionally speaking, is super nice knowing that you're not losing $5,000, $10,000 a slate. You're just like, oh, I had a couple DNPs. I had a couple of issues that go to next week. So what do you think in terms of that aspect and like not losing money every week per se, but just being able to continue to invest in your cards?
Yeah, I think there's like this, I don't want to call it like safety, but it does feel a little safer that you're able to do that. But like, I was just trying to like compare them right away that like, if you put in that $1,000 for a DFS slate and you lose it all, the SORARE equivalent is being able to play those lineups again the following week. And Like that's without having to put another $1,000 in. And obviously, SORARE has plenty of opportunities where you can like improve your lineups by putting more money in. You can also sell the cards that you bought with the hope that you can buy better cards from there. But yeah, the downside is not that it's non-existent. Obviously, you could buy cards and the values can go down, but it's just much slower if you lose, because you can, like you said, you can just roll that into the next game week and you don't necessarily have to buy more cards. And that concept is just very, very different than DFS, where if you lose that $1,000, your $1,000 is gone.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, that's a big positive. Now, a negative compared to that of DFS is that in DFS, the prize pools on a given week can be massive. Like you can win $50,000 to $100,000 on a $12 entry most given weeks during Champions League and most given weeks during the Premier League. So that is something that can be sort of a big plus sign from the DFS side of things. Whereas like SORARE, unless you're playing D2, D1, like you really can't win these massive cards. Now, granted, you can still win like $2,000 or $3,000 on your lineup that is involved. The thing that's different is that each and every week you basically have a free roll. Like you basically get, let's say your lineups on a given week have the equity of 0.1 ether. That means every single week you expect to make 0.1 ether from your lineups, and you didn't have to pay anything for. Whereas DraftKings and FanDuel, you might win, let's say, 0.1 ether in terms of value, but you had to pay like $3,500 to get that 0.1 ether of value. Whereas on SORARE, you're just sort of slowly getting this over and over again without having to put money in. Obviously, as Laird just talked about, you have to reinvest to improve your gallery frequently and refresh your players. But you can also just sort of sit still. Like I have not been buying cards tons in the recent future because my team is kind of where I want it. We were talking a little bit off of the air about my team, and we'll look here quickly through like some of my players. And I think I have a couple holes that I would really like to fill, and that would be Challenger Europe forward, where I'm not super thrilled about my options here, and then also my U23 forward options, where I think that they're just relatively weak in general, and I don't have someone that I can like be like, hey, this is a guy I want to play every week. And there are obviously other holes that I have, but like these are kind of the most pressing holes I need. But also, I can sort of pick and choose my battles because I know that I have. If you look through here, you'll see guys like Zion Fleming, Joao Mario, Gabriel Goodmanson. These are guys that I can sort of play week in, week out and be okay. So I'm not in a position where like someone posts a Noah Lang and I'm like, I have to get that no matter the price. I need to go get it. I can more just sit there, look at the market, look for a decent option. I can look at the auctions, be like, all right, I see a Cody Gakpo coming up. This is something that intrigues me. I kind of would like that. And something like that can help me, but I can also just sort of stand pat. So do you see the big prize pools as sort of a pro, and then also the cons of you're losing money if you lose type of thing?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is obviously there's no milli maker on SORARE. Like nobody's winning tens of or hundreds of thousands to $1 million in a single game week. And so, yeah, obviously that the progression of the ROI progression is slower on SORARE. And so that I think that comes with the lower downside risk, that if you go off the cliff one week, then obviously your bankroll is a lot lower. But going back to your forward issue there, like the other positive is that you can play these guys and potentially win someone better. You know, you happen to, these guys, you're like, this guy is okay. And you happen to hit the nuts one week. And now you have, the star forward that you're looking for that you didn't necessarily have to buy. And that's obviously one of the other huge advantages to SORARE, is that you can win cards that are much better than anything you bought. I mean, the better cards that I have in my own gallery are ones that I've won, not ones that I paid for. And so that obviously that now makes my lineups more competitive. So it's just as simple as like, the more that you play, even you don't necessarily need to have the elite cards to start, because you can actually win some of them too.
Correct. And I mean, looking through my lineup, like I'll show you guys that I think are legitimate playable cards for me. And again, this goes differently for every single person.
Yep.
If you have a 1 ether gallery and you win a card like, let's say, Osmar, you might be pumped and be like, man, this is a guy I can play literally every single game week. I'd be really excited about it. So it varies per person and per gallery, who you get and whether how useful they are. But so, for example, I won Balbuena. This was actually pretty lucky. I think I got him as a tier 3 reward, and I think he probably should have been a middle tier 2 or high end tier 2. So this is a playable card for me. I can run him certain weeks where he has a good matchup in Challenger Europe D2 or in Global D2. Gravenberch is another one. I actually sold him because I have a duplicate. Osmar is another playable that I view as a playable card for me right now. Joe Willis, I've played him. Songbum Kuhn, I've played him. Let's see, Melly Muhlenstein, I actually sold him, but I play his super rare on occasion already. Lars Veldwick rare. So, like, again, like, we're just looking like this is like about 5 weeks worth of rewards. Now, granted, yes, I'm probably winning more rewards than a good chunk of people, but we'll go to Laird's gallery and we'll see like who he is getting and cards he's sort of receiving that like he deemed as playable for him, because again, like I said, everybody's gallery is going to have different options and different playable pieces and different guys that they find to be valuable. So here's Laird's results in terms of tournaments, and like, why don't you walk us through like some of the guys that you think are playable that you've earned recently?
Which is funny because just before we started recording, I was saying how like my reward's been terrible lately. But yeah, I mean, you can see like that Carlos Vela one that's on the right there. Like that was a obviously very playable card before he got hurt. I've had some tremendous injury situations, but like that Mauricio Pereira card for MLS. I mean, my better ones are definitely MLS cards. That Cifuentes one I was using in U23 before all the European leagues came back. Obviously, that Carlos Gil and the Gabriel Arias cards I put right away. Georgi Mihalovic. I play that Luis Diaz card in Challenger now, and I can pair him with the João Mario card that I have if I wanted to. So, like, these are cards that obviously I can play that help my lineups, and anything else that I win, if I don't think that they're going to end up in a lineup of mine, I'll sell them. And then I can just use that profit to buy cards that I think will make my lineups better. I mean, that's generally how I play SORARE, is like the acquisition of cards is specifically to make my teams better. I'm not really buying guys that I'm like, oh, I think he'll be more expensive later. Like I want to build better lineups so that I can win better cards.
Correct. And I think that's a great way to look at things. So one thing that was discussed the other day in general, I'll get your opinion on too. And for me, obviously, in terms of DFS, so there are generally, let's say, 6 games on a slate. So when there's 6 games, there's about 100 cards that can be used on that week. And the salary cap is used, but forces people onto very similar plays where you see most good players, for example, like people that are really, really quality players in DFS that are playing cash games are going to end up with a 1v1 or 2v2 or very close lineup almost every single time. Their differences are generally going to be at like that back end guy and then maybe goalie. And that's really the only differences that they have. So in DFS, you see so much overlap that it becomes really dull. Like you end up in a situation where like you want to root for Harry Kane. Well, it doesn't matter. Everybody good played Harry Kane. So you're sitting there rooting for like Jack Stevens, the center back for Southampton. Someone else played like, any other random center back. Like they played like James Tarkowski. So like all of a sudden you're sitting there and your week rides on like Jack Stevens versus James Tarkowski, which just is really dull. Now that said, there are big tournaments that we talk about where people will play a bunch of different players, but again, you're limited at 100 players. SORARE, you are limited to thousands of players in each region realistically. So like, yes, the top end players like the Carlos Gil and the Velas and the Neymars and the Lewandowskis, like, yes, those cards are better. And in general, like if I had all of those cards, I would be using all of those guys week in, week out to really ramp up rewards. But I don't own all those cards. And on a given game week, I can play a guy like Kevin Cabral in U23, and he could have 80 points and end up one of the better forwards. Like if I click on Kevin Cabral and look at him, this is a no-name guy in the MLS. You see, though, he has a lot of 70 point games that I can play. So what do you think in terms of DFS overlap compared to that of SORARE overlap, and then also like the differentiation between SORARE lineups compared to that of DFS lineups?
Yeah, so I think the duplicate lineup conversation with SORARE was more around like 5-man stacks, that like people who play Minero stacks or like River Plate or really, I mean, we see Bayern Munich stacks for people who obviously have the bigger budgets. But I think, like you said, when it comes to salary cap formats like we have with DraftKings and FanDuel, the player pool is significantly smaller, just in terms versus like the SORARE game week versus just a DFS slate. And then when you kind of parse it down to like legitimately playable guys in cash games, that's why we see, like the double up, the small double ups, when guys are 90% owned, because that's just like what happens. Everybody kind of ends up on the same types of players, and that's where you see the lineup duplication. Whereas SORARE, like this Cabral card, like I could play it in U23 D4, I could play it in U23 D3, Global All-Star D4 or D3, Champion America D4, like any card, particularly U23 card, has utility that you can play in like multiple regions and divisions that you're not going to see like such drastic lineup duplication as you do in DFS. And it was, I don't know, that was just weird to me, because I don't know if I've ever seen a duplicate lineup in SORARE. And I'll admit, I'm not looking at every single lineup that's submitted every week, but the odds that you have like the exact same 5-man lineup in the exact same tournament just seems so low to me.
I've seen it. I saw it a couple times. Probably in regional, probably not as much in global, but like it's generally very, very seldom. And like maybe it happens more so, but like those lineups don't end up at the top. Like I'm sure if we look at the game week, and we'll go back a couple weeks, obviously, because the international break has sort of rendered everything kind of dull for the moment and kind of boring. So we'll go back to game week 196 here, and we'll just pick Challenger Europe Division 4. Just for the sake of looking at it. And we're going to look and see who the top players were and like how much different the lineups are. And for me, that's where it's pretty intriguing, is because generally speaking, when I do this, and I do this on occasion, I see a lot of different players in the top end of teams. Now, that's not to say you won't have some overlap, because like, let's say Junya Ito has 100 points. Well, he's generally a popular player that a lot of people will play. And if he has 100 points, there's a good chance the lineups that involve him are up near the top. So we look back to Challenger Europe from the last main game week, and you see that Stecklenburg, Mazraoui, Morioka, Tadic, and Haller. Well, then we look to second place, and you see Termi, Diaz, Uribe, Pepe, Diego Costa. No overlap whatsoever. It's a completely different lineup. We go to third place. Safonov, Lisandro Martinez, Morioka, Tadic, and Berghuis. So again, we see like a little overlap. Like we saw a Morioka and we saw a Tadic. So like we saw a little overlap, but it's completely different than this lineup, which is also, and then it's got some overlap to this lineup, but not fully. Then we see Adon, Chancel Mbemba, Pepe, Otavio, and Terme. So like, again, like these top 4-5 lineups here, right? They have bits and pieces that are the same, but if this was DFS, you would see Stecklenburg, Mazraoui, Morioka, Tadic, Haller. You would see Stecklenburg, Mazraoui, Morioka, Tadic, Berghuis. So like you would see like a 1v1, and that's the only difference. And also the difference here is that training gets your players to be worth more. So like in DFS, every player is the same. So if I play Cristiano Ronaldo and Laird plays Cristiano Ronaldo, the players are going to be the same. If I play Cristiano Ronaldo on SORARE and Laird plays Cristiano on SORARE, and we both have had him for the same amount of days, whichever one of us puts in more time and effort to training Cristiano Ronaldo will have the better version of the Cristiano Ronaldo card, which I think is quite a bit of skill. So anyways, the discussion was centered around skill versus lack of skill, whereas in DFS, there is skill. Don't get me wrong. The skill is to figure out the best plays and to play them. If you're not able to do that, you generally are going to be in really bad shape. SORARE, you might not be in as bad of shape if you can't figure that out. But on the flip side, there's a lot of pros and cons with SORARE of finding matchups that are beneficial. So, for example, if I look through my game week here, this right now that's going on, and I decided to play SORARE here, and maybe I decided to sit out Virgil van Dijk. So my thought process might be that, okay, SORARE right now is playing Cyprus. They are a very, very good matchup for SORARE, whereas Virgil van Dijk is playing a much more talented team than that of SORARE because they are playing Turkey. Yes, is Turkey the best team? No, but they're much better than Cyprus in terms of what you can expect. Also, Virgil van Dijk had been injured. There was a good possibility that Virgil van Dijk wouldn't play. So by doing all of that, I've gone through the matchups. I've deciphered what I believe is a better matchup. So even though, let's say, Van Dijk is a better card hypothetically than SORARE, which, again, not necessarily true. SORARE is really a good card. I deciphered, though, that this given game week, SORARE might be a better card than Van Dijk, despite over the course of the season, maybe Van Dijk will be a better card. So I know you talked about it yesterday. How do you go about determining what a better lineup is, what a better matchup is, and how to attack that?
Yeah, I think the strategy comes, straight out of the DFS mentality of like, I want to play guys who are in the best matchups. And that almost takes precedent over, player skill or situation. Like if just that example right there, I would rather the guy who's playing against Cyprus than the guy who's playing against, who was it, Turkey or Hungary, whoever it was. And like, that's makes like the first decisions in all of my lineups is who has the best matchups. And then I just kind of work from there. And, you obviously want to build in some correlations if you can do it. We've talked kind of a number of times about stacks and whether, which situations are the best for stacks and whether stacks occasionally, the correlation of a stack makes more sense than just playing who, you may consider to be the best plays that week. But it always starts with matchups and who they're playing. And because if the team succeeds, then odds are my player is going to succeed. And I'm not going to play a better player in a much worse matchup just because he's a better player. Like you have to think of what the realistic outcome is. And even very good players have, subpar games against tough opponents. So why would I like knowingly choose somebody in one of those situations if I can just get somebody who's playing, going to have an easy matchup and I'll just get the points from that way. So yeah, I think matchup is literally the first thing I look at when I start building my teams. And then I kind of look at correlation.
Exactly. I also, something I'll look at is the prize pools and like how difficult it's going to be to win a card.
Yep.
So for example, U23D3, I made what I believe is probably a worse play overall in playing Jens Petter Haug versus someone else that I had. But if I look, I see that Norway plays Gibraltar. So I have a pretty good feeling that if Haug plays and Thorsveit plays, they will both have really strong games. Yeah. So like I'm sort of risking maybe a slightly better overall play, hoping that they both play, that I can tap into that upside, which unfortunately I am not going to have that success, at least at the beginning, because Haug is not in the starting lineup. But Thorsveit is. Similarly, like I had a option that I think was a safer option to play than Ferran Torres, because I think there's a chance that Ferran Torres does not play in this matchup. But if Ferran Torres plays against Kosovo, I'm pretty confident Ferran Torres is going to score pretty well. So that's sort of why I went with the option of playing Ferran Torres, maybe over I believe I had a Sergej Milinkovic-Savic rare, but they are playing Ireland, which isn't the best matchup, and may not have the upside because he's not going to score like 2 or 3 decisives, generally speaking. Yeah. Whereas Ferran Torres against Kosovo, if he's in the starting line, could. So I do stuff like that as well in terms of when I'm thinking about things. Similar like with the weekly challenge, like I did not prioritize this team as much. But I actually played 2 defenders because I think they have better upside than that of some of the offensive guys that I had. As you see, I'm playing Adam Buxa, so my lineup is clearly not the best here. But hey, Buxa's got 4 goals in the last.
I was going to say, he looks great. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would call him Polish Lewandowski, but like, does that really work? I don't know. So hopefully he goes in and gets an assist. But again, like, I don't even know if he starts because they have a terrible matchup against England. So like, I don't know if he even plays. But if he does, hey, maybe this line can get through. But again, Portugal played Azerbaijan. Was I certain Ruben Diaz was going to play? No, but I'm pretty certain that if Ruben Diaz does play against Azerbaijan, he's going to put up a pretty solid game, which is what he did here. So sometimes you have to make decisions like that as well.
But you said it right there, though. You're like, and we do this in DFS, like a World Cup qualifier slate. You're like, all right, who's playing Gibraltar? Who's playing Kosovo? Let me get those guys. And it's the same way when you're building your lineups on SORARE. And obviously, when you're buying cards, it's a little more difficult to be like, I got to get this guy because he's going to have a great schedule coming up. Internationals make it a little wonky, but for the club season, like you can see upcoming schedule, and if you think somebody's has a great upcoming schedule and they'll be able to take advantage of it, then you can buy those cards and kind of hope that team does it. But I mean, it's the same fundamental concept. Like, let me find guys who are in great spots and I'm going to play them. And the other benefit of SORARE is you can take risks like that. And if it doesn't work out, well, you still own your cards. You can still play them next week and you didn't lose any more money because you already spent it on the card. And you can, you play that card in the next time. But it allows you to take these risks that can really pay off if they do hit.
Exactly. 100% agree on that. So those are some of the differentials, I would say, between that of DFS and that of SORARE. Is there any others that you can sort of think of that you would recommend or talk about right now?
I just think like the whole concept that, and obviously we're used to like dynamic pricing based off of matchups, but you kind of get that on SORARE too. If a guy is kind of out of form and they've had a few tough games, like his price will probably go down. And we see that on DraftKings and FanDuel that, if trying to think like Emiliano Buendia from Aston Villa. Villa plays, Man City and Liverpool back to back. They're probably getting smashed. And so his price, he's not going to be very successful. His price is going to go down. But theoretically, the SORARE idea is like, what if you could, basically buy him at a $6,000 salary for when he's playing Man City. And then the next week they're home against Burnley and he's 9,000. Well, you only had to pay 6,000 for it. And that's just kind of like the economics that go into SORARE, that a player's form has a lot to do with the value of his card, and his form has a lot to do with the opponents that he's been playing. And so if you find a guy who you think, just had a tough schedule or they just haven't played that well, but like it's going to turn, like you can buy that card and potentially he gets better and you're kind of getting it at a discount, which you don't really get on the DFS sites.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. So I guess we'll talk a little bit about the announcement that's coming out on 9.9. So apparently they are announcing their biggest club yet. I've been out of the loop a little bit compared to where I normally am because this last week has been very hectic for me. What are the current rumors and expectations to what this club is going to be? I know you and I were talking a little bit earlier about how nothing is bigger than Messi. In terms of the platform, them bringing on Messi is bigger than anything else. But what is the rumor currently with clubs and like what people are thinking?
Yeah, I think the two kind of more popular ones is either the PSG cards are coming out for this year, and they've had PSG already. They obviously did not have Lionel Messi, and so if the Messi cards come out, that's a big deal. The other rumor is the rest of La Liga, which they already have Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, and let's see, Sevilla. I feel like I'm forgetting one. Valencia, Villarreal, one of those.
They have Betis.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Sort
of. They have some of them. But anyway, so the idea is that they're going to add in the rest of La Liga, which would be the first like top 5 league that they have everyone from. And we were kind of going back and forth of whether we thought that was a bigger deal or Messi. Messi was obviously the biggest draw of La Liga, and now that he's not there, and they already have a club, they have PSG already, so the Messi cards could come out. But I have to imagine that Messi would be the biggest announcement, club announcement, if you're going to call him a club. I want to start spreading rumors that it's, one of the Premier League clubs. So I think we're pretty sure that it's not going to be Liverpool again. So if we get Manchester United, obviously it means more Ronaldo cards, but we get more Bruno Fernandes cards because we haven't seen those, and more Pogba and all those guys that, Manchester United is one of the biggest clubs in the world, obviously. So getting all the Man United supporters knowing about SORARE would certainly be a big boost.
Wasn't there a rumor of Chelsea as well? Was that
it could be. I mean, I think we, speculation obviously will bring up plenty of names, and we do have like a number of Chelsea players on the platform thanks to the deal that they have with the national teams. But that Pulisic card would be pretty fun to have.
Yeah, that is a card that I would. So I don't do anything. I'm gonna call it. I don't do anything stupid. Not that it is stupid or whatnot, but like I don't buy cards of like players I like. Like I don't go out of my way to buy a card of someone that I like. If they don't make sense from a scoring perspective, I'm not going to buy the card. If they like are someone that's terrible but is overpriced, I will sell the card immediately. Pulisic would probably be difficult for me not to own and not to like, even if I have to overpay for it, which you would have to overpay for a Pulisic card for what you get return wise, it would be very difficult for me on that one. Are you the same way, or will you not own a Pulisic?
No, he would absolutely be a card I would stupidly buy. And I think we have a little bit of an advantage that the American player base is not as big as we may think it is. I think we're a little louder when it comes to content, and so we may think that there are more of us, but hopefully there aren't too many Chelsea, hopefully the Chelsea supporters spend up on all the Conte cards and, Mendy's and all those, and then we can just keep the Pulisics for ourselves.
Yeah, like I probably would find a way to get a super. I would probably be in play on the unique on Pulisic, but I know I wouldn't be AJ on that. But
I was gonna say one of your previous guests would probably.
AJ, yeah, AJ is a big USA fan, but like AJ might have to pay a bit for that Pulisic card because there would be a good chance that I would be involved trying to get the unique of Pulisic. So
I think the play there is that if it is Chelsea, and we do, obviously if it's Chelsea, we will get a Pulisic unique, then you just start offering to buy some of AJ's other cards.
No, I don't buy any of AJ's cards in that situation. I don't want him to have any ether available on the site.
Well, you won't. You certainly would.
In that situation, it's like embargo. No card bought from AJ. Don't give him any extra ammunition going into it. But it would be that would be a card that I would probably settle for I would definitely have a rare. Super rare, I would wait and see. Like I'm not sure if I could justify spending like 3 or 4 ether on his super rare, which I don't know how much he would cost. I really don't. I would assume it would be so like he's kind of like a non-loser version of Kai Havertz. Would you agree? Like a non-loser version? No, I mean I'm kidding. Not really. I'm not kidding.
You're not really kidding. No.
I'm not really kidding. So like let's say Havertz super rares were going for like 2.5. I feel like Pulisic would be more than that, don't you?
Yes, absolutely.
Which I don't know if I can justify spending 3 to 4 ether on a Pulisic super rare. Maybe I can, but at this point that's difficult because we just talked about the holes I have. If you give me 5 ether that I spend, which as you can see, like I have the ether available. It's sitting here. It's ready to be deployed whenever I feel it's necessary. But I like to keep ether available to buy cards that I deem necessary at given times. And so like I generally will keep 10-ish plus available at all times. It's hard for me to justify that because if I just want to spend 5, like I'm much better suited paying 5 for like a couple really strong super rares in Challenger and U23 than I am buying a Pulisic. Or also like I'm much better off spent buying, let's say I spend like 4 or 5 ether on a Insigne super rare. Like that's a lot better expenditure for me than that Pulisic. But I might have to just bite the bullet and be like, all right, let's just dig into the old wallet here and fork this over. But
it would be extremely unlike you to buy that.
The only card. It's the only card. I don't think I would do it for Gio Reyna. And I would not do it for anyone else. Like, yeah, I have the McKennie unique, which, by the way, I've almost recouped 75 ether on that gallery purchase.
Oh,
so I'm close. I'm close to the 85 that I spent on it. Plus, that doesn't even go into like how much I've won from getting it. And I kept about 5 ether worth of cards as well that I was like planning to keep no matter what. So like I definitely have gotten the money back from it. Now that said, I did not get the what I was hoping for. I was hoping things were stable for a bit and I would be able to make like 20 to 30 ether selling it, which again would have been a lot of work. Like I'm still selling it and I bought that 3.5 months ago.
Yeah.
So like it would have been worthwhile for me to do it, but also worthwhile for the seller to just sell it and not have to deal with all that process. But yeah, like I have the McKennie unique, which is great, but that's not a card. I wouldn't have gone out and paid like 20, 30 ether at that time for the McKennie card. Now I won't sell it for under that because I own it and I really value that card long term. If he ever gets his head on and stops getting banned and kicked out of teams for going and partying, like, God, brutal. But anyways, like, Pulisic is the one card I think I would bend for to do something like that.
What makes you want the super rare more than the rare?
In the event that he becomes productive, I just don't really care about rares, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, at this point, a rare, if I need to replace a rare, unless it is so I have a Depay rare, which their game is canceled this weekend. I don't understand that. Did you see that? I don't understand why it's canceled on the weekend.
I haven't seen the reason why. I've seen that it is.
They just said it was CONMEBOL reason, but like, I don't understand why CONMEBOL is causing games in Spain to cancel. But anyways, if he were to get injured and be out for a year, I probably need to replace him. And like, even if I replace him with like a Mobile or Lewandowski, it's gonna cost me like 1 or 2 ether, which is great. Like, those are the top end guys. Or I can just, like, I have a Toko Akambi. I can just probably ride him for a month or two and call it a day. But super rares are way more difficult to come by and be valuable. Like, if you have a super rare that is legit good, it is really, really valuable. So, like, if you look through the player rankings here, and we'll look at like top end cards, and we're gonna look to see what I'm gonna look. I always look at L40, 15 is generally too small of a sample, but like all of these top end cards, you don't go get these cards.
No, yeah.
Like, you win these cards or you buy them at auction. You don't go buy these cards off the secondary market. Now, obviously, with the exception of Tanane's here right now, you could go buy him, but he's currently coming back from being fat. So he's got to work through that. But like, you don't buy these cards. Like, you just don't go and just purchase these off the secondary market. Like, you're going so far down here, and the ones that you can buy have lots of question marks around them. Like, Coates is old. Onawachu has so many rumors around him that it's difficult. So like, all these cards just you don't buy. Yeah. Whereas like, if I want to replace a rare, I can replace a rare of every single one of these cards. If I want to go buy a Dusan Tadic right now, 1 ether, I can go buy him. But like, if I have a super rare of Dusan Tadic, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So that's probably why I would buy the super rare over the rare version of Pulisic. But it would be difficult for me to wrap my head fully around the justification on that card.
The only reason I brought it up is because obviously the Chelsea kit is blue and white, and the rare card would therefore make it the Pulisic a red, white, and blue card, as opposed to just blue and white.
That's interesting. That's.
I mean, if we're gonna talk about stupid things, we may as well talk about something like that.
No, I mean that's valid. That's valid thing. Definitely valid.
I think we talked. I think Andy and I talked about it on one of the SORARE Andrews podcasts that, like, obviously we would much prefer a U.S. Pulisic card than a Chelsea one, and he's a Chelsea supporter. Correct. But like, we don't want him. I don't want him because he plays for Chelsea. Like, I want him because he's obviously Captain America. And so if I could get a U.S. version of that card, that would be a stupid purchase that I would make.
Correct. So here's a question for you that I think is interesting. Who are your? We'll go per region, and I'll skip Asia because I know you don't care much about Asia. But I'll ask the other regions, even though you don't focus on like Champion Europe as much. Who are your like holy grail cards that you wish you could have that you maybe do have? And then also like your under the radar holy grail cards. I have some in each region. Like, I'm curious who your players are that like you view as like the top end guys at each position, and then like some under the radar guys too.
João Felix is
done. Yeah. All right, done. That's U23, and we're good. No. Did you see he might move to fullback? I saw.
Yeah, just what I need. Just what I need.
Solid. Way to go to Atletico Madrid, bud. Good decision.
And then turning down the opportunity to go to Barcelona.
Yeah, just awful.
To play fullback for Diego Simeone. I think, like, obviously Mbappe is like really fun to have, and I think the way that I don't play Champion Europe. I mean, I have 5 Champion Europe cards that I can play. So like technically I play Champion Europe D4, but like I don't it's just guys that barely play, and so it's not a priority for me. But like, just thinking, I think of it more as teams. Like I see these like Bayern Munich stacks, like Lewandowski and Goretzka, Lewandowski, Gnabry, Goretzka, or Kimmich, Davies, Neuer, like those. That's fun. Like I would love to like roll something out like that. And you kind of have that. I think there's like one team in each region. Like I think that gank stack that you have is like exactly the one that people should have in Challenger. And obviously it gets pretty expensive, especially since Van de Voort is like 12 years old. And so you'll get him in U23 for 20 years. But I think it's like guys like that are pretty fun. And I don't know, that Memphis Depay that's one I would love to have that I just am so far away from.
His AJ bought his unique yesterday, which we were just talking about before we came in the air. That's like my holy grail card. For me, as of today, there is, and I don't include Mbappe in anything because like it's Mbappe on his own, and then everyone else is below that. Like if I own an Mbappe unique that's worth like 500 ether, I'm not going to own it very long because I'm going to sell it for 500 ether and be like retired on beach. So I'm just not going to include that. The Depay unique is like my holy grail card. Like that's like when I get that, if things will change, like obviously in 4 years, like Depay's 32, he's not that card. But like right now for me, the holy grail card is Depay at forward. Like his super rare is my holy grail card, and like, or his unique is like my holy grail card. And then like the super rares I really would want if I had unlimited money right now would be like Depay and Insigne. I've just always been an Insigne fan. Just love him. I've always loved him. I love his style. And then like midfielders for me is going to be like my current like holy grail of like cards is going to be like Kimmich. Yeah. He's like my holy grail type of card. And then a guy like Casemiro is another one that I like. Those are the two cards at midfield. Like, who are your midfielders that really stand out to you?
So back to the Memphis thing for a second. Did you feel that way before Messi left?
Yes, but I've, in my opinion, he is the best card on the platform realistically right now. Depay is, and the reason is because age is fantastic, injury record is fantastic. What he does for the team is fantastic. What his international usage is fantastic. There's just unlimited positives with Depay. Every single other player, for the most part, outside of Kimmich, and Mbappe, like I said, I don't count. Outside of Kimmich, I think there was literally no other question marks for me about Depay. Everybody else has something. Like Cruz. All right, he's a bit old. That's his knock. Like, it's not bad, but like Cruz is old. So like you know that he's older, whereas like Depay is like in his prime, doesn't generally get injured. He is a massive usage player. In terms of when Messi was there, I was still fine with it because I just figured they were going to score a lot more goals. Yeah. That, like he would sort of make up from losing penalties. Like I think he would have maintained some of the sets because Messi will give up some corners and sets sometimes. So like I didn't think he was going to lose a heap there, and I figured he would make up from the penalties and some of that stuff. I thought he would make up from it because Messi's so good scoring more goals.
No, that makes total sense. And yeah, Messi leaving obviously was huge for Memphis because now it's his team now, especially with Griezmann gone. Like it's that they're not as good, but he is elite.
I have watched and I'm a bit concerned that they're not near as good. I think they will struggle against good teams, but there's enough games a year where he's going to be more than fine. Like even like today, like he has an assist in the first minute of the game against Turkey. Like he just is really good in every facet. He just gives you utility. And like if you click on him, I'm not going to do it. But if you look at him, he just doesn't miss games. He just plays like every single game. And then defense. So I'm going to assume your holy grail defender is Davies.
Yeah. It's like a total like I don't want to say I like looked into that card, but like that was one of like my first purchases on SORARE, and it's like I've had multiple people ask like what it would take to get it from me, and I'm just like unnecessarily not upset about it, but like I'm just there. You're gonna have to overpay to get it from me, so it's like not even worth asking for it, and it's just one of those cards, I guess.
Yeah. No, and like for me, I think mine is currently Bastoni. I really like Bastoni. I like what he can do long term. And again, like he doesn't show up totally at the top end here, but it might be because I'm not an L40 and he might not have an L40, or he just isn't as good. But like I really like what Bastoni does. Well, I can't even find him. So, anyways, I really like what Bastoni does. I also really like, obviously, Davies. I really like Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think those are cards I really would like in terms of Champ Europe. So, if we go to Challenger Europe, who are your like Holy Grail forward type cards? And like for me, like I'm talking Holy Grail cards as in like I want to own their super rares because owning all of these guys uniques that I mentioned is just not it's feasible. But like if you could own like the forward super rares in Challenger Europe, who are your like guys you wish you could own? Like not like Tadic, like guys that are like lower than Tadic.
I mean, the answer for anybody has to be Noah Lang, right? Like I think even if Noah Lang had no U23 eligibility, he's still like an elite challenger. And like I think the only way I get Noah Lang is when he turns 24 because like he's just like so expensive. But like he's an elite player specifically on a very good team in a league that has a lot of high scoring. Like there was all that talk that he was linked to Leeds. And it was like, that's obviously a good career move in terms of like moving to a bigger league with a bigger club and obviously more money. But that would have just like crushed his utility. And as somebody who doesn't have a Noah Lang card, I was very excited for him to move so that I didn't have to keep looking at all these lineups above me with Noah Lang in them. But he's like, Noah Lang is definitely a card I wish I had literally at any level.
Yeah, having his rare, I was talking to someone about it. Like, look, if he stays at Bruges for this entire season, not having his rare and you play U23, it's just not great. Like I know it's expensive, but it's just that much better than every other forward at U23 that you just really, I think, need to have him. Like for me, it's like I really want a full gank super rare stack. That's like my holy grail, I guess. I won't even go into all the other positions realistically, but like I want to have like a Bongonda, Ito, Hanen, defender, whoever that is. Like I have Lacuni, but like if he goes like elsewhere, and then have Vandevor and like have the whole team as a super rare would be super cool to me. If I could pull that off. Similarly, like yes, like as you said, like Noah Lang, like who does not want Noah Lang? And then if I look at like midfielders, like I have a couple of the guys that I really covet at midfielder, being like Sangare. I really want Sangare. But like another guy that like I would just love to have, and I think he's like a holy grail card for me, is Gonzalez. I really wish I could get a Pedro Gonzalez super rare. It's just not happened up to this point for me. Hey, who knows? Maybe it won't. Maybe it will. But that's a card. Like, is there anyone else that you really covet in like you know who else I kind of like? I have a soft spot for him. Big Bob Scoofs. The guy just churns and
he churns,
and no one cares about him at all.
Like, look at him. Look at him.
Like, look at this face. Like, why would you not want this face? But he's a guy that I just love. I think he's fantastic on the platform. I watch the Mechlin games, and like I just enjoy what he provides from a SORARE perspective. So I kind of want his super rare, and that's one I might try to get. His last auction went for 0.827, but at that time I had other holes I needed to fill. There's a chance I might like try to get his card next time. Like I won his rare last year, and that was before like the end of the season, and then he went on this stretch right here.
I was gonna say, did you podium with him once?
I probably did. I probably played him each week after I had it.
I remember you had some like really good result with him, and I'm looking at your lineup, and I'm like, what is he doing playing this guy?
I got a fifth. I got the Terame, which is one of the other cards. But yeah, so I got a fifth with Big Bob Scoofs.
Big Bob. But yeah, no, I looked at that and I was like, what is this guy doing in Sean's lineup? And obviously you look at the scores and you're like, okay, I get it. But like, yeah, that's the funny thing about SORARE right there, that like nobody's heard of this guy, but he's winning you money. And so, I mean, that's good luck finding enough people who know who Morioka is. And yet anybody who plays SORARE knows that he's a card that like everybody should want to have, because he's like literally one of the best scorers on the entire platform. And it's one of those funny things about SORARE that like most of the world has no idea who he is.
Yeah, AJ Penn paid like 10 ether for his unique 2 or 3 weeks ago. He literally won the unique division right away because he had that card.
Yeah,
he had that card and he had Eduardo, and they both ripped hundreds. I'm like, those are two of the guys I love, and like I've talked up because like I have Eduardo and I really love his card. So anyways, like those are two cards that are just like, there's cheat card codes in any region, and like those cards I find really cool. And then Defender in Challenger. I don't think there's a Defender. One guy I really like is Robin Proper. I have his super rare. And like that, I do have his super rare, but like I find that card to be a really strong card. He's just a guy that always performs well. And then like looking at these other guys, like I think I'd really like to have a Biscagli, but I'm not going to pay like 2 ether for his super rare right now.
Yeah.
So anyways, those are some of the cool cards out there that I've seen. Is there any other Challenger cards that really stick out to you?
Well, on that topic, like a PSV stack is one that would be really fun to have, and you can play most of it in U23. Like you don't even need to play it just in Challenger when you have Biscagli, Sangare, and Gakpo just starting off right there.
Yeah.
Those are fun players to have. I have now have a soft spot for Malacia because I've had him for a while, and that guy's just been killing it lately. And so,
like
it's just like guys that if you have a successful lineup with one of these guys, they're like automatically become a soft spot for it. And yeah, that's
I got him in a deal. I think I got him. I don't know. I'm going to click on this because I don't remember the deal, but I'm pretty sure I got him in Sangare, and I do not remember what I gave up for them. It might be really good or really bad because like if you look at the timeline, it could be really bad if I paid ether, but if I made a trade, it might be good. So let's see what the trade was. So I gave 2 ether plus Volin and Hazard for these 3. So like actually this is a favorable deal for me, probably.
Very favorable.
Which is great for me, obviously. But because like these 2 aren't worth tons, and 2 ether is not worth these 2. These 2 are probably worth close to 3 right now.
Yeah.
And Goodmanson, didn't he just transfer? I forget. I'm pretty sure Goodmanson transferred. I just don't remember where because I haven't followed in the last couple of weeks as much. I'm gonna click on Goodmanson.
Because we were saying,
he went to Lille. He went to Lille. Zura, if you're watching, 5 ether. He's available.
But just what we were saying before is that like super rares are just not that easy to get. And so like you say like it's maybe 3 ETH for Malacia and Gak, or was it Sangare? But like nobody's gonna give that to you. Like nobody's going to say, give me 2 ETH for those guys. Like it's gonna have to be 2 for each of them because the scarcity is so low that they're not gonna want to give them up.
And I just run him with Bijlow like every single week. Look at the results I've had with him. And then again, like they didn't play all summer. So like I got this card in February or in March, and that was pretty much at the end of their season. So in like 15 game weeks, maybe I've hit all of these rewards with him. Now, granted, like some of the rewards aren't great, but the finishes are like 4th, 1st, 4th, 7th, 4th, 5th, 30th, 5th. Like those are really good finishes. And then we'll see how much I pay or what I've won with Sangare. I don't think I've won as much with Sangare because I think I typically play him in D2s that are less conducive for me doing well. So let's see here. Yeah, so as you can see, like he hasn't been, well, I guess he's gone. Like I've won U23 D2 twice with Sangare recently. That's really good. So I'm obviously happy with that. Granted, the rewards, these are not what you want for your first place in U23 D2 rewards. But again, that's a whole nother thing. But so anyways, yeah, like I actually think maybe on the next show we'll go back through like some previous deals that like I've made and that you've made and see what we've done. We could do it now. Let's see. Yeah, we're at 53 minutes. We'll save that for the next show tomorrow, where we will go through like some deals and reflect on what we were thinking at that time and what we think now looking back on the deal. I know I have one still that was the worst buy I've made on the platform, and I will talk about it on Wednesday's show. And yours is Joao Felix. We already know that. So
no, that was definitely not my worst buy. I think
not Kim Min-tae anymore. Don't get me.
I was going to say it was. I think it might have been Kim Min-tae until recently, which I bought from you, of course.
Mine are a lot more expensive. I know for a fact the #1 worst buy I've made on the entire platform, and I will talk about that on the next show. So we're recording this Tuesday. We're going to be back on Wednesday, and I will let you guys know some of the worst deals I've made and some of the best. Like I'll have some of the best as well. So that'll be an interesting show to watch on Wednesday. So All right. Is there anything else you have to talk about today, Laird, or do you think we have covered everything?
Yeah, no, I think that's good.
Cool. All right. So everyone, make sure that you check the link in the description if you are new. Get a free limited card with the purchase of 5 cards at auction. And then for Laird, I am Sean. We will see you guys back later in the week for the last of our 10-part series. We will see if we continue after that. That is up to other people, not myself. So if you want to see more of these, make sure you respond via the tweets that get sent out about this saying that you want more of them. And we'll see where we go from there. All right. Have a good day, everyone. Good luck this week.